welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Sharkbine, joined every Friday by my main man, Derek Bell. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. And today we're diving into the new, I want to say the improved Pittsburgh Steelers. Plenty of changes that have happened over the week. More to come. Free agency is just getting started, I think. The big ones, Patrick Peterson replaces Cam Sutton. Nate Hebig filling up the offensive line. Two new inside linebackers, Larry Ogunjobi and DeMonte KZ return. And like we said, we believe there are more coming. It is a dark, gloomy day outside. I'm sure it's the same in good old Kentucky. How you feel, my friend?
Yeah, same old here. But it's good. It's good. It's Friday. Get to talk some ball. Been a very busy week free agency. I know you feel it. But
Yes.
It's been fun. It's been fun
has.
getting some new faces, getting to dive into some tape on some of these new guys, and I'm definitely cautiously optimistic about a couple of these guys for sure.
I would say cautiously optimistic is a very good way to put it. It feels good. You know, it feels like there's a little bit of a spark here with some of these guys. I met Patrick Peterson and Nate Herbig yesterday. Let me tell you, first impressions, Patrick Peterson is just a professional. Like, the guy is just, you could tell he's a 13-year vet. You know, it's a Cam Hayward. I know what to say. I know how to say it. I know what the NFL is. I know what to expect. I was like, all right, this guy, he's a professional. That's what he is. He's a professional. Nate Herbig is just a dude. Like, he's a Hawaiian, Stanford loving, everybody's a stud, came in pounding the table for his brother kind of dude. He mentioned this is the list of people that he called a legend during his opening press conference. Andy Weidel was a GOAT. Mike Tomlin's a legend. Kenny Pickett's a legend. Tyson Alualu's a legend. David DeCastro, his brother Nick, the entire Pittsburgh Steelers roster, and everybody from his high school in Hawaii. All legends, according to Nate Herbig. It was a good time. Let's start there. Let's start with Nate. You look at him, you look at his tape, big, nasty dude. They said he's, 6'4", 325, I believe. What pops off for this guy, an undrafted free agent in 2019, has come through and started, I believe, 28 games.
Yeah, the size, the number one thing. I mean, you talk about just overall size. The dude's a big dude. He's definitely a people mover type. You know, there are some things that I think he does particularly well. Like, I've only gotten through like one game of his from last season, but
we got a frozen Derek. Continued frozen Derek. That's all right. He's going off on the size. Nate Herbig is a big dude. He has only gotten through one tape. I guess that's where he was going to say. My analysis of Nate Herbig is, again, big, nasty guy, plays the inside, has a chip on his shoulder. He's got upside. I think he's still young. He's still developing. He's a player that came out early out of Stanford and kind of rides that wave of, believed I should have got drafted, didn't get drafted. He plays very physical. Am I going to say he's going to compete with Kevin Dotson? I was going to ask Derek this. I'm sure I'll wait until he pops back up on the screen. But as of now, I would say maybe. The Steelers like Kevin Dotson. They're going to continue to like Kevin Dotson. That's not going to change. They always make guys prove themselves when they come to Pittsburgh. That's just what happens with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You come to Pittsburgh, you do not own anything. I think he's back. All right, he's coming back. And therefore, they will not hand him anything. You're back. He's ready. It's all right.
dude, I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi. I've literally been fooling with this thing literally since I woke up. So,
It's all right. That's terrible.
What was I saying?
One tape on Nate Herbig.
Yeah, so only really got to one game so far. Definitely a guy that can generate some displacement at the line of the scrimmage. Works good vertically, double teams. Inside zone definitely feels like his fit. Not the most athletic guy, but I think he may be just a tad more athletic than his testing or that like his profile would typically indicate. One of the things that he really needs to work on is pad level. Pad level was a problem in the game that I watched, but overall, good finisher, definitely a guy that plays with that mauler mentality. It does seem like just with the Steelers, the offensive lineman that they've showed interest in so far, it does feel like getting back to that physicality at the line of scrimmage is definitely a priority. Wanting
Yeah.
to improve this run game. I think that obviously we saw how they operated down the stretch on offense. They really want to be a run heavy team, and I think that Herbig is a sign that that could definitely be the direction that their offense is going to.
Do you think that I just gave my spiel about Nate Herbig, so I'm not going to give it to everybody again. You missed it, unfortunately. Do you think that they compete? Do you think he competes with Kevin Dotson this summer? You think that's an open competition?
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's absolutely what they needed to do. Like, I don't think that you could go into the regular season just handing the job off to Kevin Dotson. Just Dawson's he's got talent. It's just the inconsistencies are maddening. Really highs, really lows. I'm interested to see what the rest of Herbig's tape says, but I definitely think just off of watching the one game that I've watched so far, I definitely think that he has the potential to win that job, and I anticipate that they're going to give him the opportunity to.
That was my question. Do you think he's got that upside? Because he is young. He's 25 years old. Dotson will be 26 by the season. He's 24. I believe Dotson will be 26 by the season. So he's 2 years older. Do you think that he's got that upside to just not be a spot starter, not be he beat out Kevin Dotson, but kind of be like, oh, okay, maybe the Steelers found that kind of guy. I mean, 28 starts, and Andy Weidel sees something in him according to reports. There's got to be something there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get like too over my heels here, just because good offensive linemen are really hard to find, for one. And there's not like every team doesn't have five good offensive linemen. So that's just what it is. But I do think like when you watch him, like just in pass protection, he anchors well. Like I said, a zone-based blocking scheme, I think he can be a starting caliber type of player. But I don't want to say that he's going to be like an impact guy or anything like that. But I do think he has like high backup to spot starter or baseline starter traits just off what I've seen so far. So.
I feel like Mason Cole had that same description coming in here, and he's turned out to be pretty fine at the center position. Something that you
just the one game I've watched of Herbig, I did not think that Cole's tape was very good last offseason. So we're already off to a better start on that.
Also very true. I guess very true. You were not a big fan of Mason Cole. I like Mason Cole. Yeah, he was all right. Okay. Does the reports, and from what I have heard, those reports are true, maybe not as they might be a little bit more laid back than the reports claim they were, or just on the surface seem. But the Orlando Brown made a push for Orlando Brown. In your head, did that set something off that says the Steelers maybe are going to consider Dan Moore competing for the job this season?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
The Orlando Brown thing was...
Wait, time out. First, I'd like to come on here and say that we did a podcast, and I was very excited about Orlando Brown 1 week ago, and we left that podcast, and I was like, well, Orlando Brown sucks, and the Pittsburgh Steelers would never go after him because that's all I've been told, and everybody in the comments, and that's what Derek told me. Well, if I was the general manager, I would have won that one. So, carry on.
I don't think he sucks. I just think he's a little overrated. But I think for what the Bengals paid for him, like Brown to me is not an elite tackle because he's not an elite pass protector. And I think it's pretty much impossible to be an elite tackle without being good at the most important thing. But he's a really good run blocker. And I think that he is a solid pass protector who just has some limitations in terms of range. But it was interesting. I wonder if the Steelers... To me, it seems that maybe, again, we could be looking at more of the mauler type tackles just to match kind of what they've got on the interior or they're going to in the interior. Yeah. Like maybe your Darnell Wrights, your DeJuan Jones, those types of tackles that are, assets in the run game and moving away from some of the guys that they've got right now. But I just, the thing with Orlando Brown, which is kind of interesting, I wonder if they just kind of got in because Brown's market wasn't what he was putting it out. I mean, he turned down like a $25 million a year from the Chiefs deal, and then he ends up signing with Cincinnati for 16 a year. I mean, that's why I didn't want Brown, was because I thought he was going to reset the market. Like 16 million a year is fine.
Cheap. It's cheap.
Yeah,
it's
fine.
What's Chooks? Chooks is 13 a year, I believe.
Yeah, it's like 11 or 13 or something like that.
Yeah. So that's a great deal. Now, I mean, the Bengals might have screwed themselves because Jonah Williams wants out now, and that whole instance is, but it does. And I agree. I think that's a good thing. But just like you've said before, the tackles in this draft do not offer, come in here and be immediately better than Dan Moore Jr., fill that role without any issues. The tackles in the draft, there's a couple of them that could come in here and be studs right from the beginning, but a lot of them need a year. And that's just the reality the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at. But the after Orlando Brown makes me think maybe, maybe at 17, I'm still saying no, it's a cornerback, but at 32, I think people are going to be really upset with that 32nd pick, because I think it's either going to be a tackle, which people will be happy about, but I don't think it'll be like a big name tackle, or it's going to be an inside linebacker. Sorry, but it's going to be an inside linebacker.
That last part for me,
doesn't feel good, but it's the truth. Like all signs point in one direction, and if you follow the trends, the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at an inside linebacker. There's a lot of questions about the draft. There's a lot of questions about positions that they've signed. Bush goes to Seattle. Did you like that fit for Bush?
Good luck. I mean, I do think the one thing with Devin, I'm not going to sorry, I don't have a lot of thoughts there positive. Best of luck to Devin. I think it's a good situation for him because they lost Cody Barton in free agency. Jordan Brooks coming back from that ACL, so there's a potential there that I guess he could maybe work his way into a starting role. So good for him. I think that if he can, work his way back and maybe, surprise some people, good for him. But I don't. Based on what I saw last year on tape, I mean, when you're getting benched for
great analysis,
Robert Spillane, and
Mark Robinson,
I just don't have a lot of positivity going Devin's way. But best of luck to him.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten hit up for a Devin Bush breakdown yet. I don't know if I'd have many positive things to say. I want to address this one real quick too. If the Steelers take a center high in the draft, do you think Mason Cole could get cut? I would. I know a lot of people have the Steelers could upgrade at center mentality, but it's not going to happen. Like, the Steelers don't have a center on their radar. They've already shown that with who they've met at the NFL Combine, but it makes a lot of sense. If you're going to keep Mitch Trubisky for $10 million a year, just because you don't want to mess up his relationship with your young quarterback, if you're going to keep a really bad offensive coordinator because you don't want to mess up the flow with your young quarterback, you're not going to change centers. You're going to keep Mason Cole, and he's probably the easiest one of the three to decide to keep. So I just don't think that the Steelers have that in their arsenal this year. Maybe deeper in the draft as like a depth piece in case he goes down, because I don't know if Herbig has center experience, but I don't think that they're gonna go out and draft somebody, especially not in those first couple of picks. All right, so we'll dive into a lot of these more in a little while. Let's talk the defensive side of the ball. Two new linebackers, Cole Holcomb and I'm blanking on his name. Alondon Roberts, excuse me. I want to talk about Roberts first. Miami guy. I think you tweeted out. He gives you a lot of Vince Williams feel to him. Was that you on Twitter?
Similar type players for sure. I don't know that I used the Vince Williams comp 1-to-1, but there are definitely similar type traits there.
There's a lot of stuff going around. Obviously, everybody on Twitter has seen him stuff Nick Chubb at the line of scrimmage. That's obviously the highlight that's making its way. The what I got from a Miami Dolphins source scout, whatever you want to say. He's a very good fit under the previous defensive scheme that Brian Flores brought from New England. Wish that would have still applied here. He came back from an ACL the next to last game of the 22 season. And 2022 was his best year, and you could see that on the field. And then it talks about more about the Vic Fangio. It wasn't a good breakdown. I guess that was the first time I read it. I won't lie to you guys. Should have came prepared. What do you see in Roberts? Give me your breakdown of Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts is a old school like 2-down thumper. I mean, that's what he is. He's a solid run defender who plays really aggressive, flows to the ball, um, hits. I mean, he's a very throwback type of linebacker, not someone that you want covering, not someone that you want out in a bunch of space. The one thing I will say, I need to watch the clips because I am intrigued because this is not something that I saw last year on his tape when I was going through it. But it looks like they blitzed him more in passing situations this past year, which was interesting because Roberts doesn't have he can't cover. So there's not really much upside for him in the pass game. But It looks like Roberts blitzed a good amount last year. Like I'm just looking at some pressures. He rushed the passer 29 times, but he ended up with 13 pressures, 5 sacks, 3 hurries, 3 hits, 5 hurries. So pretty good. I'm interested to see if I can find some of those reps. But yeah, Roberts, good run defender. I don't know that I don't think Roberts is like penciled in. Well, he might be penciled in as the starter right now, but I really
he's got to be the starter.
Yeah, but I think that there's a decent chance that if he's the starter week 1, he's not the starter for very long because I think that they'll take a inside linebacker earlier. But good special teamer too. Like he has a good amount of special teams experience. He's covered kicks, been on the kick return team. He covered punts last year. It looks like for the first time. So offers special team upside. So I like that too.
Yeah, I think that it's a good. My thought of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now is a changing of the guards. You get 2 guys, one that you believe that you could build off of in Holcomb, and then another guy in Roberts that could be here to be like a thumper, veteran presence nearing the endish of his career. And then you bring somebody in at 32 or 49, whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah, I'm going to guess that's Trenton Simpson as of right now, but I would imagine that by the end of this, Drew Sanders is on their list as well because they're going to go Goo Goo Dolls over him too. I think Noah Sewell's gone because they didn't go to his pro day. You're saying he's
West
saying
Coast.
Simpson, he's a West Coast guy. They don't go West Coast. He's way too far away. Do you think Simpson? So you're saying Simpson's the guy that comes in here, and then by the middle of the season, he's the guy that starts. But at the same time, Simpson is also not very good at football and being an inside linebacker right now.
I just think that Robert's deal to me looks like Herbig's deal, where it's like they could compete for the job, but they're not necessarily going to change them pivoting from their draft plans. And
Gotcha.
I think Simpson, just from a fit perspective, like I tweeted it out, just with Holcomb and Roberts, like I think that the guy that they get in the draft has to have either some type of coverage ability or some type of coverage athletic profile to develop into a good cover linebacker. So I think that Simpson I definitely think he has that.
Yeah,
so,
Simpson fits the bill.
Pro day dinner.
Holcomb? Yeah, the pro day dinner was it. That was it. As soon as the pro day dinner happened, I was just like, well, they're drafting
everybody and their mom at the Clemson pro day and a formal at the combine. They're definitely interested in Simpson. So
yeah, they are. And it's not like it's not a tip. Like, you take them out to dinner, it means something. The rest of it, I don't care. You take them out to dinner, it means something. What about Holcomb? What do you see in Holcomb?
Yeah, I was watching the Tennessee game before I jumped on here. Holcomb's pretty good. I mean, he's a good athlete. I think a lot of people were surprised to see that on his scouting report yesterday or the other day when he was signed. Good athlete, flows to the football, has some good range to him. I definitely think he's a better run defender than cover guy. I like the way that he approaches tackles. Like, he seems like he's always under control, like plays, inside out, outside in, depending on, where his help's at.
Yeah.
I like what I've seen. And there have been some encouraging pass reps. I tweeted one out just a minute ago of him in zone coverage. Definitely not a guy who's like he's a fluid athlete, but he's not someone that I would, not that I hope that they do this anyway, but he's not somebody that you want to just throw in the slot to cover like tight ends or anything like that man to man. But looks like he plays his leverage pretty well in zone coverage. So I like what I've seen so far. I'm curious. It does seem like, he got a similar deal to some of these other linebackers that I thought
Yeah.
were better in free agency. But I mean, I still think that there's a chance that he could, play up to this deal for sure.
Yeah, it seemed very much so. Like the deal's better than Leighton Vander Esch, who they were supposedly
And
after.
and David, like there was a lot of guys that like signed for. I haven't seen like the full deal, so I don't want to comment too much because I don't think even the guaranteed money's out. That could be another thing. So
Yeah, true. Could be
but
very low. Yeah, but like,
it's
what's
a.
low guaranteed out of an $11 million deal? Like, not a lot. Can't be a lot of, What
I
was
was talking
Vander
about
Esch's?
guaranteed money
Yeah, for
for
Holcomb.
Holcomb's.
Yeah.
Wasn't his 3 for 18?
It was 3 for 18. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, still, if you guarantee him $4 million, I mean, Robert Spillane got a $4 million guarantee, so you'd have to imagine it's probably right around there. That's, I mean,
Probably 6, 7, 5.
yeah, like that's not like you're still sitting there with a Vander Esch deal, but maybe they like this guy. Maybe they see something young in him. Maybe they thought he could get him. Maybe they had their eyes on him in the draft. I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet. I don't know where this whole thing started, but it definitely came out of left field to me. Love the mullet. I think everybody in Pittsburgh is going to love the mullet. The whole Pittsburgh, these are Pittsburgh guys, was 100% happening in free agency to bring in Nate Hebig, who just here. I got a clip. This is I love this guy.
It's the Steelers.
It's Steelers. It's the Steelers. He's immediately my favorite player in the locker room by far. But it's just very Pittsburgh themed guys. But just to kind of transition into the last player, obviously, which is Patrick Peterson, which I know you're excited to talk about. But the grand scheme of things, it feels as if their entire defense is kind of making an overhaul here. You get rid of Jerry O, you get rid of Brian Flores, you get rid of Robert Spillane, Miles Jack, Devin Bush. You bring in 2 new guys, new linebacker coach. You now have, as of right now, your starting safety is different. Your number 1 cornerback's different. Chances are they're going to bring in another cornerback with a very high draft pick. It just seems like the changing of the guards is very real in Pittsburgh right now. And it's exciting because the Steelers didn't have a lot of holes on defense, but they could have improved in a couple of areas. And I think they've kind of taken that and ran with it, which gives me a lot of hope in Omar Khan. Not that I didn't have any hope in Omar Khan. I thought Omar Khan was going to be a stud, but he's kind of come out here and just been like, yo, guys, watch what I could do. Works out well. Feeling good about it. Let's talk about Patrick Peterson. I know you wish this was 12 years ago. Patrick Peterson was your second pick. He's not. What does 13-year vet Patrick Peterson bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers? And the age thing's got to be a concern, right? Like at some point, Father Time's got to catch a corner. It always does.
Yeah. Peterson's playing pretty well he played really well last year for his age. It's a totally different scheme, man, that they run over there in Minnesota. It's a lot of like quarters, quarter, half type stuff, a lot of off coverage, pretty much exclusively zone. So
I was going to say it's not a lot of man.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he transitions back into this scheme. If it's interesting to me too, like if the signings of Peterson and Holcomb, who are more from like zone coverage based defense, if that changes a little bit about how they want to do things next year. But I do think Peterson, like, dude, he's so freaking smart. Like I've watched I watched 2 full games, and then I watched his interceptions from this past year, and dude, he's ridiculously smart. Like, just plays route concepts very well. Like, once he gets those zone eyes on the quarterback, like, he's dangerous, man. He'll break stuff. He'll jump routes, and I'm excited to see what he has left. I think the thing I'm most excited for is he alluded to it, even though he said he hasn't talked to the coaches yet, but he alluded to like being part of the game plan and maybe moving around.
Yep.
I think that I tweeted this out like right after the signing happened. But, like, I think that he would be really good at this point of his career, like, covering tight ends. And I'm just thinking to myself that I think Cincinnati's probably going to go after a tight end with one of their first couple picks. But they lost Hayden Hurst.
Oh, yeah, also very true.
Like, I think And it's a really good tight end class. So like Cincinnati and Burrow has had really good tight end production the last couple of years. I think with that in mind and Mark Andrews in the division, I think Peterson's an interesting player because like he has that size, he has the length. He's not a guy that's going to get boxed out easily. Can keep up, like he can, play with those bigger receivers. Just in terms of concerns, like he's
Yeah.
lost a step.
Dude, he's got to lose a step. He's 33 years old. People lose steps.
Yeah, I mean, just like whenever he has to open up his hips and like increase his strides to get vertical or to match vertically, like you can just tell like he's not 21 anymore because Peterson used to be just like this unbelievable athlete. Now it's a good thing because like he's used to be an unbelievable athlete, and even with him losing a step, like he's not just like he's not a 4'6", 4'7". I don't think he's like a 4'7" corner at this point, but he is definitely slower, but again, just intelligent, the ball skills. I mean, he had a couple really good interceptions last year that impressed me too. So I'm interested to see what he does. I do think there's going to be some matchups that the Steelers are going to have to be a little bit scheme dependent and try to hide him a little bit. But I think it's a good signing though. For what it was. So
do you? Because we both anticipate they're going to take a corner at 17. Chances are it's. Devin Witherspoon really the only one that moves back and forth, inside, outside versatility like that? Say they get a guy like Witherspoon, like Joey Porter Jr., like Deonte Banks. Do you see an instance where Peterson kind of primarily plays the slot, Levi Wallace and a rookie's on the outside? Kind of like a Cam Sutton situation where Peterson starts on the outside with Wallace, and then he works his way inside, plays a little bit more there. Yeah, I feel like there's not as much. I feel like Cam wanted to be on the outside. I think Peterson's just like, I don't care, man. Just put me on the field. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know if Peterson can do that against slot receivers, the shiftier guys. Like,
so he's not a slot guy, just a tight end guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that he's gonna like he alluded to it, and I kind of like think that it's a good kind of illustration. But I think he can just be like a matchup guy. Like I think the game plan could really be week to week dependent on how they utilize him.
Yeah.
But I do think right now, I think he's definitely penciled in as like the outside starter.
Yes.
With Levi, but I think Witherspoon, man, like everybody just needs to say a prayer that he doesn't run that 40, or he runs like a 4.5.
But he's an inside guy. Like you could put him on the inside. You feel comfortable about that? Not Peterson.
He can play anywhere. Witherspoon can play anywhere. Like he's an outside guy to me, though. I mean, he's thinly built. Like he's got that slight frame. He's only about 180 pounds, but
he hits like a freight train.
Incredible tech. I mean, he's a really good technician. Hits, tackles. He's good against the run. I'd have no problem playing him inside. I even think he could play inside as a rookie. But so he would be. I mean,
you'd have to.
Witherspoon.
Your options or Arthur Millette.
Like when you take all of the components of what the Steelers could or we think are looking for in a cornerback, Witherspoon probably fits all of those components the most. But it's just a matter of, is he going to be there at 17? I don't know. So.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about with the cornerbacks here. A lot of Ahkello Witherspoon hate. A lot. A lot of Ahkello Witherspoon hate happening. I've tried. I don't defend anybody on Twitter. I just chill. I just stay chilling. That's what I do. But like, come on. Can we be honest? Ahkello Witherspoon is not a bad cornerback to have on a roster. He has met exactly what the expectations were coming to Pittsburgh. The highs are high. The lows are low. You're just hoping for the highs. There's no point in getting rid of it. Who are you going to go find for $4 million to be a quality depth piece at cornerback that's better than Ahkello Witherspoon? You can't. Nobody. The answer is nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think the Ahkello stuff is funny to me because
hilarious. I stay chilling.
Like he had a couple of rough games. Some of the plays that he gave up, he was in good position, just didn't finish at the catch point. And then I think that the Philly game is what
I think he was
sticking out. Yeah, I think it's sticking out in people's brains, those 2 touchdowns. But like y'all got to understand, and like we talked about this leading up to the game, we talked about this after the game. Like The Steelers were literally playing middle field closed and asking Akilo to press a top 5 receiver with a hamstring injury.
With
I
a
mean,
hamstring injury for one
you
half.
you guys can blame Witherspoon all you want, but that's bad coaching, man. Like, don't get me wrong, that's just bad coaching. But
Yeah.
it is funny to me. I think Akilo. I don't know if they keep him on the roster. I mean, I guess it seems like they are at least going to get through the draft to see
Yeah,
like
it
what
just
they've got.
you bring him into the summer. There's no
Yeah,
point in not. It just
yeah. I
doesn't make it.
mean,
He's
but
too cheap. You're not going to find anybody for cheaper than $4 million on the open market, unless you're
yeah,
bringing back a James Pierre and you're just comfortable with somebody there. But James Pierre is a huge liability. And last year showed the Steelers anything. And Patrick Peterson said it in his welcome press conference. Sometimes the healthiest team wins a Super Bowl. And the
yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers, especially in games like the Buffalo Bills, who was that? No, Josh Jackson and James Pierre actually played really well against whoever the next team was. But you run into those situations. You'd much rather have a Keller Witherspoon out there than James Pierre and Josh Jackson any day of the week.
Yeah, it's just somebody saying, what about the Cincy game? Y'all are bringing up games and situations where he's guarding top 5 receivers. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, guys, but like, do y'all think that receivers are just out there on the market that are going to go man up against Jamar Chase and follow around the field?
That's what I'm trying to say is like for your fourth
like
cornerback,
if y'all wanted that, yeah, they should have went and got Jalen Ramsey, and even Jamar is going to cook him too. Like,
the fourth corner on a roster is not a guy that's coming in here and your expectations are, all right, buddy, go guard AJ Brown every single down
with a hamstring injury,
with a hamstring injury, and go exceed. Like, it's just not the expectations have to meet your value on the team. And Keller Witherspoon's value right now is a 4th string cornerback. That's pretty freaking good to have for your 4th cornerback. Like, that's 2 years ago, it was James Pierre. And at one point last season, your CB2 was Josh Jackson. So just, it's all about value.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really get I think the Akilo is just way, way overboard. I don't know. It seems like everybody's just like, this is what we said in the offseason too. Like, he was an elite corner the last half of 2021.
Yes.
And I told people, I said, look, like, they're bringing Akilo back to be this number 1 corner. I'm just telling you, like, he's had stretches like this. Granted, maybe not 6 or 7 games like it was in 2021, but like, he's had stretches like this before where he's been really, really good. And he's never been able to put together a full season. He's never been able to do that consistently. And everybody was like, oh, well, like, he's going to keep his momentum. I'm like, look, man, just understand, like, he's never done it consistently. I hope he does.
Yep.
And what happened? Like, he had a bad 3-game stretch and now everybody thinks he's terrible. Like, he's not. Like, he's just inconsistent. Like, he's very talented. He's inconsistent. He's completely fine. Like,
the highs are the highs and the lows are the lows. The highs are very high. The lows are very, very low.
My guy Eddie Spaghetti, man, he is hammering these Devon Witherspoon comments. I think
somebody tossed out there that are they brothers?
No, they're not related.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, no. And this one, we got to bring this one back up. Who remembers the Ross Cockrell days? It could be worse. It could be so much worse than having Keller Witherspoon as your 4th corner. Just tossing it out there. With that being said, you still under the impression that 17 is a corner before we move on to this last thing here?
I think it's a good possibility.
Yeah, I
am worried about I'm worried a little bit about the inside linebacker thing though.
It won't be at 17. I could just, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Last year, I thought it was Malik Willis for sure, but maybe. If it is, it's bad. It's a bad pick. But I think I have more faith in Omar Khan. If it was Kevin Colbert, I'd be more nervous. All right, 2 questions real quick before we head out of here. 2 guys that I think are still on the Steelers' radar: Terrell Edmunds, Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree, do you see him coming to Pittsburgh? According to reports, he's whatever. I agree. I think he's on the way. I think it's the next news that it breaks. And then Terrell Edmunds, do you see him coming back to Pittsburgh?
Probably.
Oh,
I
okay.
think because I just don't know what his market's going to be. And I think if it's similar to what it was last year, like, why not bring him back? You know
I
what I'm
agree.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
if he's only going to get a minimal raise, to like a baseline starter salary, like, I would 100% like to have him back. And we've talked at length about, how fantastic they were in those three safety sets. I definitely think that that's something that they want to continue. So I definitely think Edmonds could potentially be back. Like I said, I just don't think that he's a priority to them. I think if they get him back, they're cool. If not, they'll try to look at, maybe getting a similar type of player either in free agency or the draft. So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree. I think that
I definitely
Edmonds,
think
it goes on him.
The Bud thing makes way too much sense, man. Like,
Way too much sense. It's all about
it
health.
just
If his knees got 2 seasons in him, you sign him for 2 seasons. He comes back to Pittsburgh. He finishes his career. He feels real good about it. Edmonds, I think it's just like you said. It's him. If he gets a bigger contract, I think both sides are fully aware. Hey, man, go get the bag. Go have fun. We're happy for you. Thanks for doing your thing here. If not, we'll be waiting. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are just saying we'll drop you a really small contract, and we could try this again next year. But for the time being, go explore and have fun. See what it is. All right, we'll have plenty of news by the next time we're on here next Friday. Thank you guys for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I will be back on Monday with Steven. Make sure to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Find all of the free agency news and breakdowns at allsteelers.com. And like I said, I will be back on Monday. Enjoy your weekend.